Hey guys, welcome back. This is Real Estate Uncensored. I gotta tell you one thing. I'm so pumped. I am so pumped. I'm so freaking pumped. Alyssa and I this morning, we recorded with one of the biggest economics like masterminds, like a genius of money and finance. He gave us some time today. We're gonna play with that recording. But before we do that, Miss Alyssa Glutz, what's up?
Oh, I'm so happy. It was a really great interview this morning. We had the chance to catch Dr. Elliot Eisenberg, one of the best presenters on the economy. I've been watching him for years, but he's known as the bowtie economist. I got the opportunity to have him come up on our show, and we got to interview him this morning. We just finished. We get to watch the show together, and I think it's pretty phenomenal. I think a lot of the great stuff about him is just how much he stays very relevant, stays very in tune with what's going on, the attention with what's going on in the country. And anyways, he gives such great stuff. I don't want to take anything away from his time. So, Greg, let's talk. Let's hit that button.
All right, let's play. Welcome back to another special edition of Real Estate Uncensored. I have Elliot Eisenberg. If you guys don't know who he is, this man, he's an international absolute sensation when it comes to economics. This guy has forecasted stuff that you can not even imagine. I've been following him, and I'm literally, I am not starstruck. But I'm sitting here talking to this guy like we're just two bros hanging out at drinking beer out of a keg. But he is so freaking smart. It's going to hurt your brain when it comes to the economics of real estate. So before we get to Elliot, I love you, but I have to introduce my beautiful co-host, Miss Alyssa Glutz. How are you?
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. This is going to be the best show. I've been so excited about it.
Oh, dude,
getting comfortable.
Dude, mix two of us, because when we were talking about this show, my girlfriend's like, why are you running out of the house so fast for? I'm like, I got one of the biggest economists in the entire world who wants to be on my show. I gotta go. And she's like, okay, bye.
Okay.
My head's growing by the minute here, people. Stop. It's not good for me.
Just turn sideways when you walk through front doors, okay? That's all we have to do.
Two seats at a table, one for me, one for my ego, you know?
Well, that's actually 100% not true. You're the most down-to-earth, fun, cool dude ever. So, Mr. Elliot Eisenberg, please tell the world who you are, brother.
Well, I think you did it pretty well. I mean, I'm a popular, I think, economist, and I'm a public speaker primarily. I talk about economics to crowds, and I think that my skill set really involves economics and public speaking. I make economics fun, or almost memorable, or easy to retain. I tell people stories, they remember the stories, and it helps them in their work as an economist or a realtor, as a mortgage lender, as a banana baker, pie maker, car saleswoman, whatever it is. It helps. And I take a topic that's scary and awful and numeric and graphs, and it's terrible, and I make it accessible, and that makes it fun for everybody.
So it's interesting you say that, because I mean, my girlfriend's big into economics. She loves tax conversations. She loves all of this stuff, but I don't like it. So for a lot of us, it's very, very, very daunting to talk about these things because we don't know what to talk about because we've never been taught it.
Correct.
And and
it seems so intimidating too. And that's why Elliot and I connect so much, because his passion of breaking down these complicated subjects that people find are overwhelming. I mean, you're speaking to me, baby. That's how I am too. Yeah.
GDP, inflation, unemployment, labor markets, labor force participation rates, China. There's a lot going on. It's complicated. Yeah. It's weird.
Got to make it a little bit more sexy, more fun, more interesting.
Well, you got to throw some sex on it, and that's what Elliot does.
Well, as I tell people when I speak, I generally encourage my audiences to have unprotected intercourse after my presentation, because we don't have enough people in the country.
I love you.
And we need increased population growth.
Yes,
and
at least
part
4.
of it is government can open the borders legally, not illegally. But if they don't, we're not just here as victims. We have the power of agency. So, and if you have a child, name the child Elliot or Eliota, And I would be very honored.
Very
of the
intelligent
year.
choice. Very intelligent choice. So Alyssa, you came up with a bunch of different questions and topics. I want you to jump in for us on, and because I know Elliot's got a very tight timeline today. We're very blessed to have him on the show. Walk us through some of your thought patterns and kind of what you want to ask Elliot so that he can influence the real estate agents that are going to be listening.
Well, I'm just gotta say I'm a huge fan. I have been probably getting Elliot's nightly blog for years. I would say maybe 3 or 4 years, but he is really, if anyone wants to get that blog, we're going to put it in the comments. You can text a number. I think it's 66266. I want to say
text bowtie.
Bowtie
is bowtie to 66866. So
66866, pretty close. So anyways, I'm a huge fan. I always, completely go crazy when I see him. But what I'm interested in, what so many of my, colleagues are interested in, is really what's the outlook on housing. We know that we hear that the interest rates over and over are every day. It's like the rates are at 5, the rates are at 4. You know how this isn't accurate? It's a realtor. It's somebody that's not really supposed to be posting the information. But what do you think, Elliot? What do you think we've got going on for the housing market next year?
Rates are coming down. Look, we may or may not have a recession. We can argue that separately. But we know rates will come down. They'll come down slower. If we don't have a recession, they'll come down more quickly. If we do have a recession, but they come down. And that's unequivocally a good thing for realty in general. It'll boost, it'll help sales. A lot of people who have low mortgages now, low rate mortgages, will say, well, look, I'm not going to sell my house and my 4% mortgage to get a 7%. But at 6.5, I'll move because I've had octuplets recently and we're out of space. Mm-hmm. So there's demand to sell on one hand, people are pent up demand, and there's pent up demand to buy. Mm-hmm. So these lower rates will help everybody and volume will go up. There's no question. We've had the worst volume ever, the last 10, 20 years, last month or two, when we had annual seasonally adjusted and annualized national numbers of 3.8 million units sales rate. These are horrible numbers, and they were a result of 8% mortgages in October. Mm-hmm. But they've come down by 100 basis points, 1 percentage point, and they'll dribble further.
Right.
By the end of next year, they'll be at 6 or 5 3/4 or 6 1/4 or 6.5, but they'll be meaningfully lower than they are now. Volume will be up.
Yeah. Well, why does it feel there's such a division, though, that we're seeing? We've talked about it before of that everywhere you see out on the news, it's saying that the economy is doing great. We're actually doing pretty well. Right. When you look, I guess, at different things, but the human, the person, who has a house, who has kids, doesn't feel that. So why is there such a disconnection?
The disconnect, I think, has to do with inflation or the impact of inflation. Mm-hmm. We remember 3 years ago, before COVID, you went to the supermarket and it cost you $100 or $150 to buy whatever it is you need for a week for your family. Mm-hmm. And now that $100, $150, the $150 is $225. Mm-hmm. And you go, every time you're reminded, you go to Chipotle, you buy a couple of drinks and some guac, and it's $45. You go, this is fast food? You're kidding me. People hate that prices are milk is not $3 a gallon. Now it's $4 a gallon or whatever. People are this is really upsetting people. They feel their standard of living is lower. In many cases, it is lower, and it's not going to revert. Economists are happy inflation's come down from 9% a year and a half ago now to 3%. But that means it's still going up.
Right.
But it's only going up more slowly.
It's interesting.
This inflation's annoying people.
So let me ask you a question here. I mean, it comes back to the fast food, comment here a second ago. My girlfriend and I, we were in Southern California about about 5 months ago, and we were there for a house party for her friends. It was like 12 o'clock at night. I mean, we were coming back from a party where we wanted to get some fries and just go home. We went and got one large thing of fries, 2 small burgers. It was $35. It blew us away.
You know what, though, Greg? It's interesting because it's almost the way I felt about housing. It's kind of like if houses were apples, okay, and before 2020, your apple was worth $1, and then at the end of 2021, your apple was worth $100. Okay, then, and now it's worth like 75, all you'll see is people that will say, oh my gosh, the housing is crashing. Well, no, it went up, now it's coming back down. Same thing with prices. We don't feel that impact when bread is 7 and now it's 5. We don't go, oh, we're doing better now. We're like, remember when it was 2? That's all
Right.
all we, so I feel like it's a mental game. We hear 8%, that freaks us out on the interest rates. And 7 sounds amazing. Where if you talked 2 months ago to somebody and you said 7, they went, huh? What are you talking about? 7? So it's a matter of perspective.
But if rates come down a little more and they hit 6.5, I think the housing market really begins to move, because we've realized that the 3s and the 4s, though, that's ancient history, COVID, economy bad, and so
maybe
on.
we'll get there eventually, but yeah.
Maybe, hopefully not that low on a 30-year mortgage.
Right.
But people on the mortgage side, they've accommodated and they've learned, and they realize now that 6 is a pretty good rate given the environment that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Food, by contrast, they're still angry, and this is partly why I don't want to get into politics here. But if you look at Biden's polling numbers, one of the major reasons his numbers are as weak as they are is because people are bitter about inflation and the cost of living and house prices being so much higher than they were.
So that goes back to a mindset, situation, right? So we're conditioned, because for so many years we saw the interest rates at like 2%, 1%. It obviously didn't get down to 1%.
Cash was trash back then, right?
It was garbage pants. But here's the interesting thing. So people only know what you tell them, right? That's just a human thing. So if you say that the sky is blue, the sky is blue. If you say it's purple, it's purple. If enough people believe it, that's fact. So in regards to interest rates in the economy and housing, and just kind of your insight in regards to kind of where this is going, what would you say is going to be the next step for 2024 and beyond? Because I mean, I look at gas, and my heart literally cratered one day when I went in. I filled up my SRT8 Jeep, very, very fast Jeep. I love that freaking thing. But I put $100 into it and I got 3/4 of a tank, and my heart literally started hurting. And
now gas is cheaper.
Really
gas is a commodity.
Things.
Gas prices bounce around. Uranium prices bounce around. Sugar prices bounce. Gold prices.
Yeah.
All these commodity prices: wheat, soybeans, corn, canola oil, zinc.
Everything. So help me understand something. You are way smarter than I am. And I would just like to understand it so I can talk to my buyers and sellers about this. In 2024, 2025, 2026, whenever you guys are listening to this, from our standing point of this recording date, where do you see it going, for folks who are just trying to buy a house, trying to refinance? I mean, what do you see going on, man?
I see a couple of things likely to happen. If you look at historically affordability, think of some historical level of affordability, not the 2020, 21 when things got really cheap, but historical. To get back there, we have a couple different things have to happen, or scenarios have to happen. We got to get affordability to improve and get affordability back. And the way that's going to happen is there are either 3 extremes. Either interest rates collapse, right? That's one possibility.
When you say interest rates collapse, what kind of numbers pop in your brain?
Oh, they fall back. They fall down by 300 basis points, 3 percentage points.
Okay.
Or we get conceivably house prices collapse and they fall by 30%. Or wages jump up by 25. I mean, those are theoretical possibilities. They're not going to happen. But what will happen, or is likely to happen, is interest rates fall by maybe 175 basis points, so 1.75 percentage points. Wages go up by 5-8%, and home prices fall by 5-7%. If you got all those 3 things to happen, none of which are really all that unlikely, the home price decline of being 7% after this huge 40% run up in home prices over the last couple of years, like you pointed out, Alyssa, that would bring housing affordability back to its traditional level. And that would be terrific for realty. And 2 of those 3 things will happen. Which ones we can argue, but I bet 2 of those 3 things happen, maybe all 3.
Alyssa, in your line of work, being an absolute master of mortgages and credit and everything else,
Yes.
when he says, traditional affordability, what does that translate to you as a mortgage lender? Talking to buyers.
Right. Meeting the guidelines of being able to afford, being able to keep your debt ratio under 45%, really your housing under 35 is stretching it, really around 30%. I think they actually suggest lower than that, right, Elliot? Isn't it like 25 they typically suggest?
That's hard. That's
hard. That's hard. But here's what I do see happening. The amount yesterday, I'm going to give you a perfect example. I have a client who called me yesterday and said, I'm ready to move. My parents are going to give me quite a bit of a down payment up front. 50% down. I'm going to, I know I'll be moving up from about a $1,200 payment right now up to about $2,200. I know that based on rates. However, this is what I figured out after one of your videos. I started writing out every item in my budget for this house. And I started looking at $1,200 first mortgage, $200 second mortgage, a small little line of credit she has, 3 HOAs.
Three? Did you say three HOAs?
That equal $400 a month, and a storage unit because her home currently is not big enough. What she's paying for her little home for her and her daughter's $2,500. So now she's going to move up double the purchase price of what she's going. She's going to $600. She's going to be putting $300 down. But even in a high rate environment, sometimes. So what I see happening, the trend is, number one, people are going to get smarter about their budget. They're going to start looking at the items that they are just miscellaneous, kind of coming through the subscriptions, the Fortnite, the Roblox, the kids. Kids are moving out of your homes. You're not going to have as much need for you to hand them money. Haha, that's
Hulu,
funny.
Peacock, all these streaming services,
Hulu,
Roku,
Disney, right? It's really ridiculous. And then the other thing is that I think for the last few years, if you look statistically, single women, or just the amount of single people in the country, I think rose quite a bit. They also bought a lot of animals. Animals need backyards. Okay. So I see this move of girls settling for somebody because they need a partner to buy a house. Just kidding. Sorry. Lowering your standards and getting a dog. That's how I feel. That's my prediction. Anyway, you asked.
But household formation did go up quite a lot during COVID because people said, I can't live in a house with 3 strangers. I have to have my own place. I don't want to get COVID and die.
Interesting.
So
household formation.
You're right.
And household formation really has a huge impact, right, Elliot? On,
it's gigantic
on our supply. Yeah.
People are going to live in a house or rent an apartment.
Let's walk through that really quickly. Household formation. What is it? What is that terminology? What does that mean? I mean, is that consolidation or is that separation?
Separation, essentially. So if you live with your parents and there's you and your mom and dad, that's a household. If you move out and make your own and buy your own rented apartment, now we have 2 households. So economically, we want lots of divorce because divorce increases households.
It's a huge indicator, Greg, actually, when you look back on to like the 70s or even when some things became legal, the difference, if not following housing formation and looking at even the crash of 08 and everything and how much we were overbuilt, right?
And then people have to move in back into their families again and shrink. That number of households shrinks in a recession because
now we have too many homes.
Don't have a job.
That is fascinating to think about.
Yeah.
So watching the problem is the household formation numbers are notoriously bad. So it takes a very long time to figure out what's driving home buying demand. Is it just pure demographics? Is it household formation? People go to college. People don't go to college. That can affect household formation numbers as well. Delaying marriage, getting married, divorces increase household formation. So there's a lot of sociological things and demographic things going on too. But it's a critical indicator.
That honestly, Elliot, is one of the most fascinating things. I've been doing this for 24, almost 25 years. And I've never heard the phrase household formation, but once you just described it right now, and this is why I love reading your stuff on a daily, weekly basis, because you break it down so simply and you make it like complicated issues, like Alyssa was saying earlier, you make it so easy to understand, because once you understand like household formations, what does that mean? Okay, so I can go out into a neighborhood if I'm a real estate agent or if I'm a lender or anybody else, and I start looking at kind of where the the city map, the growth plan is going to be, kind of what the divorce rate is, kind of what the population of kid birth, everything else. All of a sudden, you have a business marketing plan right there based upon the growth, the expansion and the retraction of the nuclear family, be based upon just economical situations.
And you see this manifested itself in certain ways. Arizona, for example, where you are in Phoenix, right, Alyssa? I mean, there's huge population growth there. People are moving there in droves. So for the state of Arizona, household formations are going up like crazy. By contrast, where you live, Greg, in California, data came out for 22-23. California lost another 100,000 people. They lost 500,000 last year, and then 100,000 this year. You're slowly shrinking. I mean, it's a crazy story.
It's specifically, I mean, you look at your area, high fire, contra nasta, the insurance. Elliot, when you say it's paying attention to all of these things that are happening around us, to go, oh, so if everyone's getting a dog, what will that lead to?
More yards.
A backyard.
You need a backyard. Gotta have a backyard.
If people are starting to, brothers and sisters are deciding to move in together.
Yes.
Then you got to watch those, all the different formations that aren't your traditional marriage.
Now we see a lot. Pardon me, Alyssa, I apologize.
Oh, no, honey, go ahead.
We see a lot of single women buying houses now.
It's one of the biggest group. Yeah.
You know what? The funny thing that you say about that, Elliot, is that when I was teaching one of my first courses at my old brokerage, I looked into the stats about that, and it was, I think, 12 or 15% of single women were buying, 9% of single men were buying, and I'm like, hey guys, you might want to go out there and start dating, because the girls have got a lot more money than you do.
It was 9. It was not even really like to point out, just so you know, but the single women, it was over 20%. Just so you know.
Shit.
Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Bad math.
Yeah. And to come from the 1974 time frame where we had to have you, our husband, co-sign just to get a mortgage, just to get a credit card. We had to have a man co-sign for us. So
now we see women graduating college. 60% of college graduates, 61% of college graduates are women.
That's right.
So it's not surprising they're buying homes with, they're buying a lot of homes.
Well, you know what? Every human being is uniquely intelligent in their own way. And you know what? Folks are finding out that they have their own power and they can go do whatever the heck they want to go do. And you know what? Those handcuffs have been, proverbially taken off, right? Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And so, Elliot, I really want to, this is a real question. I'm not messing with you. In the future, when it comes to buying, selling, and economics, are women going to take over the world? And that's a real freaking question.
It's a slow and steady process. This notion of a glass ceiling, it's not going to break and shatter, and women are going to run all the CEOs of all the companies overnight. This has been a slow 30 or 40 year process that's been taking place. Women are still, I don't know a number for sure, but I'm guessing it's probably 15% of Fortune 500 companies are women run. It's not that many, but with more women going into getting bachelor's degrees and more getting MBAs and more getting law degrees and so on, slowly and steadily, these percentages will rise. There's still sociological pressures against it, the old boys network and so on and so forth. And women, we know, don't take the jobs that get them into the high C-suite jobs. They become head of HR chiefs. But those aren't the ones that become CEOs. It's the CFOs that become CEOs, or it's the CTOs that become CEOs. But over time, some women will take those jobs as well. So we
have a hard time, though, taking what we deserve. Women, we've been prepared probably more than men for
sure.
probably more than 10 years, but we won't take action because we're so much more nervous about, and we think things out. Even if you're going to think about leaving a relationship, it's going to be 3 years probably before you end up leaving, because you've got to plot. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but you've got to really figure out your exit plan. Women do. Men will be like, do I have underwear on that's clean? I'm out the door. Goodbye. You know,
yep,
they will lunge in.
That's pretty much it.
I'm sorry.
That's pretty much it. So,
but we know, for example, men are better, make more money than women do, in part because they're happy to go to their boss and say, give me a 10% pay raise. Whereas women are going to have to have a business case in their minds before they approach their boss. They're not so sure of themselves or self-confidence, even though the men have it misplaced, perhaps, you know?
Yes. That's what I say.
So, Elliot, there's a very funny story to that exact point. I was talking with a 22-year-old guy, and his name is Mark. He's in the Pacific Northwest, east. And he went to his boss, and he says, I need a 10% drop in my commission rate. Like, I need you to take whatever you're taking, take it down by 10%. And the guy goes, okay. And I'm like, what in the heck? When he asked for a silly request, I'm not going to put on air, but you know what? It was all in jest and joking. But I mean, men have a better, mindset of just going like, hey, this is BS. Like, give me a better rate. And fortunately date a woman who is extremely, heavy-minded financially. And she's the same way. Like, she's a dude with boobs. And she just goes out there and she just goes after it.
She's aggressive, Greg, but I will I gotta mention this one thing. I had a guy in my office one time. He had $154,000 second mortgage that in the crash, they wouldn't release it. It turned into a revolving line of credit. And this was several years later. We thought he was going to sue. We thought he was going to get sued. And he sat in my office and I said, call them and offer a settlement amount of 15 or 20% to start. Well, the guy didn't know math very well. So 154,000, he gets them on speakerphone and he says, how about I give you 5,400? And I sat there and went, no, man. Like, I just was like, and they came back on the line and said, we'll take 9,200. And I went, So here's my thing. Even when I'm talking to people and they're like, I want to call and I want to try to settle this debt. What should I offer? I'm like, whatever you got the balls to offer. Okay. Whatever you got the courage in you. And as a woman, I mean, yeah, I could tell you to offer 20%, but you're probably going to call and go, I can do 20, but I could probably do 50. If you want me to just pay it. Shut up.
Just shut up.
So I always think about that guy. Like, always go for the jugular.
That goes to a point of never negotiate against yourself.
Gosh.
If you put a number out there, don't put out another number until they put out a number.
So true.
Never put out a second number first. No. Once you put it, even if it's bad, don't make it worse by upping your price or whatever.
At least own it. At least, own it completely.
So let's talk about personal finance really quickly, since we're on that trend, right? Personal finance for somebody who is, after listening to your intelligent words, Elliot, and Alyssa, your incredible commentary, personal finance, how would somebody get to where they need to be to buy or sell or rebuy or resell or whatever? What's the first 3 steps, Elliot, you would tell somebody about personal finance?
Live within your means. Live within your means is number 1. And save money too. Don't go and buy a $5 latte every day at Starbucks, followed by a lunch out at a nice little restaurant around the corner. You've got to save your money and you've got to live within your means. Those are the fundamentals. And you've got to put aside money. There's no other way. You've got to save for that down payment somehow. You can compromise on the size of the house, but you want to get a house, you need a down payment. And then budget carefully. Be aware that electricity is going to cost you money and insurance is going to cost you money. When you rent, you don't have those expenses. You have other expenses, but whatever. But you've got to know what you're getting into, save money, live within your means.
That literally was awesome. I mean, I love that. I mean, it's so true because, you know, I coached a guy about 10 years ago, and he was like, I need to save up money to get a $150 a month, you know, personal office. And I said, to your point, Elliot, I said, go back and look at your finances. And I'm not an economic, you know, major in any way, shape, or form. I just said, go back and look at what are your monthly expenditures. He came back to me the next day. He said, I saved $2,500. And I'm like, what did you do to save that per month? He's like, my wife and I agreed not to go eat out every single day of lunch.
You know what? It's so simple. If you think about it, it's about $28. Okay, it's like 27 and change. $28 a day. If you were to go, what am I spending? For me, $28, maybe I'm sorry. Maybe I'm drinking coffee, DoorDash coffee. Maybe. Okay. But 28 alcohol, you know, whatever it is, but $28 a day in 1 year is $10,000.
I'm sorry, run that past me. Wait, what? Run that past me again?
$28 a day is equal to $10,000 a year. So if you want to save $10,000 a year, all you're going to do is get one of those big old milk jugs, and you're going to take one thing a day at $28 a day that you're going to figure out how you're not going to spend that anymore. And it's going to get harder and harder. But is that insane? 28 when you really start like biting it down into tiny amounts. You need to set up some
$3,500 a year, you know.
That's crazy. $10. You could set that up as an automatic like pull from your bank account through Acorns, through Digit. You don't even see it. You probably would have spent it on a couple shots in your coffee anyway. But if it's doing it in the background without you even seeing, then at the end of the year, you look at your account, you're like, whoa, 10,000, 5,000. That's how you do it. Automate it. Automate tiny micro amounts that you don't even feel on a daily.
You got it.
That's my thought.
Elliot, you know, I heard a funny quote one time, and I always laughed about it. And Alyssa brought it up in this. And you know what? If you were to just go for one run a day, you'd lose 10 pounds a year.
Right. And a couple 100 calories here or there, a few fewer potato chips.
Yeah.
And that can alter your baseline over the course of a year. It's crazy.
Well, Ellie, I know you get a jump, brother. You got another appointment coming up really quickly. Hey, really fast, how can people get involved into your world? How can they get the emails that I get, that Alyssa gets? You know, how can they learn economics in a fun, interesting way?
The easiest way is to take your phone, get your phone out, text the word bowtie, one word, BOWTIE, one word, to the 5-digit numbers we mentioned earlier, 66866. That's it. You'll be prompted for an email address. You type it in. You'll hear from me every day, as I joke, until you die. And if you go to hell, where I'm certainly going, we'll continue conversing. So 66866. The word is bowtie. I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for making the time.
Oh, it was dynamite. I look forward to next time already.
All right. Elliot, you are a legend in my mind. You have been a legend in my mind for years and years. I get your emails, and that's not a joke, boys and girls. I'm so excited to actually meet Elliot and hang out and kick it with him. If you guys go get that content, trust me.
Bowtie 66866.
There it is.
Thank you, Melissa.
All right.
Thank you, Greg. A pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, guys. You have a blessed and powerful day. Guys, this is Real Estate Uncensored. We can't do the show without you. We love you. Until next time. Peace out, ninjas. We gone.